Hello friends. What happens when the dreamer meets the warrior? When the soft, intuitive Pisces man locks eyes with the fierce, unstoppable Aries woman, is it cosmic destiny, or a ticking time bomb waiting to explode? Their story is one of opposites attracting, or colliding. A relationship that dances between fantasy and fire. A union where water meets flame, and neither one knows whether they're about to create steam, or evaporate altogether. Let's dive deep into the fascinating, complex, and often unpredictable world of the Pisces man and Aries woman compatibility, in love, sex, marriage, friendship, and business. This isn't your average horoscope fluff. We're exploring the real dynamics, the hidden challenges, the magical highs, and yes, the potential heartbreaks. Because this couple, they're anything but boring. Love, a fairy tale written in sand. At first glance, a Pisces man and an Aries woman look like they stepped out of two completely different stories, not just different pages of the same book, but entirely separate genres. He is the classic romantic hero from an ethereal love poem, soft, soulful, and mysterious, someone who feels things not just deeply, but profoundly, almost poetically. He's the man who will remember every anniversary, every look, every sigh. When he falls with his entire being, surrendering to love like it's a divine force. His world is full of emotion, nuance, and an intuitive kind of caring that isn't loud, but lingers. She, on the other hand, is the protagonist of an action-packed novel, fearless, spontaneous, and constantly moving forward. Ruled by Mars, she doesn't wait for signs or subtle gestures. She acts. She initiates. She crashes through uncertainty with bold confidence, unafraid of risk, unapologetic in pursuit of what, or who, she wants. The Aries woman knows who she is, and she wants someone who can keep up with her pace. On the surface, it looks like she and the Pisces man might as well be speaking different emotional languages. And yet, there's something magnetic pulling them together. So how do these two even fall in love? Simple, they intrigue each other, in the way that fire is drawn to mystery, and water is fascinated by intensity. The Aries woman is captivated by how effortlessly the Pisces man tunes into emotional undercurrents. She's used to being in control, often taking care of herself and everyone else around her. But this man? He's not trying to dominate or compete. He simply listens, truly listens, and reflects her in a way that no one else has before. To her, he feels like a secret garden, one that's lush, deep, and completely untouched by ego. To the Pisces man, she's everything he never knew he needed. He's drawn to her fire like a moth to flame, not because he wants to be burned, but because her vitality stirs something dormant in him. She brings color to his grayscale imagination. She adds volume to his internal monologue. She shocks him awake from his dream state with her bold honesty and infectious energy. She challenges him, not in a combative way, but in a way that forces him to grow. With her, he feels alive. Visible. Real. But the real question is, can it last? Here's the truth, love, for this couple, isn't the problem. It's the pace. The rhythm. The emotional tempo. The Aries woman loves like a wildfire, quickly, passionately, and with full conviction. She falls fast, and once she's made up her mind, she's all in. She doesn't understand hesitation when her heart is already decided. So when she starts making plans, taking charge, and expressing her affection in bold and frequent ways, she expects her partner to meet her there. But the Pisces man? He swims in deeper waters. He doesn't leap, he floats, he observes, and he slowly allows himself to be drawn in by trust. He's not suspicious, he's sensitive. He needs to know the emotional environment is safe before he fully opens. He needs to feel secure, to know he won't be overwhelmed or rejected for showing his vulnerable side. To him, love is sacred, something you don't rush into, even when it feels right. This difference in speed creates the first friction point. She may misread his thoughtful caution as disinterest. Meanwhile, he might interpret her forwardness as pressure. She'll start to wonder if he's really into her, and he'll begin to feel emotionally cornered. It's a dangerous misunderstanding, one that can spiral quickly if not addressed with clarity and patience. Conflict arises when their emotional instincts clash. The Aries woman is direct, even blunt. If she's upset, you'll know it, immediately and loudly. She doesn't like emotional vagueness. She wants action, resolution, progress. The Pisces man, on the other hand, avoids confrontation like a sea creature dodging a net. He internalizes pain, prefers to escape into solitude, and often communicates through subtlety rather than clarity. He might shut down instead of speaking up, hoping the storm will pass. To her, that silence feels like rejection. To him, her outbursts feel like emotional violence. So how do they bridge this emotional gap? They can absolutely work it out, but it's not a path for the faint-hearted. It requires emotional intelligence. She must learn that vulnerability doesn't always look like hers, that his silence isn't indifference, but fear of hurting or being hurt. He must understand that her fire isn't rage, but urgency, a desire to fix, to connect, to feel close again. It requires patience. Their timelines won't match up. He might need to be nudged, but not pushed. She might need to slow down, but not stall. They'll have to learn how to dance to each other's rhythm, sometimes leading, sometimes following. And above all, it requires maturity. Both need to step outside of their emotional defaults and really choose each other, not just when it's magical, but when it's messy. She has to learn to sit with silence. He has to learn to speak through fear. Together, they must create a new emotional language, one that balances intensity with tenderness, action with reflection. If they do, they won't just fall in love. They'll transform each other. She'll learn how to feel more deeply. He'll learn how to live more boldly. And what began as two people from separate stories might just become one unforgettable epic, a love written not in sand, but carved gently into stone. Sex, when fire heats water. Here's where things get really interesting, where their contrasting emotional worlds collide in the most intimate, vulnerable, and revealing of ways. The bedroom becomes a mirror for who they are at their core. For the Aries woman and Pisces man, sex isn't just a physical act, it's a negotiation of power, desire, connection, and understanding. And though it may start with confusion, awkwardness, or even disappointment, this union holds the potential for a kind of alchemy, where fire doesn't burn water away, and water doesn't extinguish fire, but instead, they create steam. The sexual chemistry between an Aries woman and a Pisces man can be surprisingly electric, once they begin to understand each other's rhythms, motivations, and unspoken needs. They don't naturally move at the same pace or with the same intent, but this is part of the intrigue. She's driven by passion, quick, instinctual, in the moment. He's driven by emotion, layered, introspective, and seeking depth. Sex, for her, is a spark that becomes a blaze. For him, it's an ocean wave, powerful but built on emotional undercurrents. The Aries woman is primal. Direct. Physical. She's turned on by the chase, by intensity, by power dynamics and raw, unfiltered energy. She's not waiting for emotional buildup or subtle signals, she wants to act on the moment, to feel fire on skin and impulse in motion. When she enters the bedroom, she doesn't want hesitation, she wants heat. Think torn sheets and aggressive kisses, fast hands and unspoken tension. Her ideal sexual connection is charged, bold, and unforgettable, like lightning striking the same place twice. He, on the other hand, wants to melt. The Pisces man is a sensualist, but not in the way that's immediately obvious. He craves emotional resonance before physical touch. He's aroused by vulnerability, by slow glances, by the soft poetry of intimacy. Mood matters to him, the lighting, the silence between words, the emotional vibe in the room. His lovemaking is immersive, not explosive. He doesn't rush toward climax, he floats toward it, savoring every moment like it's sacred. Sex, to him, is a form of spiritual connection, not just a physical one. In the beginning, this mismatch can be genuinely confusing. She might assume he's disinterested, prudish, or overly sensitive. Where's the urgency? Where's the push and pull? She might feel like she has to initiate everything or that he's holding back for reasons she can't understand. Meanwhile, he might be overwhelmed by her directness. He could misinterpret her physicality as impersonal or transactional. If she leads with lust and doesn't show emotional softness, he may feel like a body rather than a partner. But here's where the real beauty lies: if they're willing to meet in the middle, magic happens. She teaches him to be bolder, to express his desire openly, to embrace his primal side without apology. She pulls him out of his head and into the present, showing him that intensity can be just as meaningful as sensitivity. He, in turn, teaches her how to slow down, how to really feel each breath, each touch, each heartbeat. With him, sex becomes more than just fire. It becomes a moment to sink into, to be vulnerable, to merge emotionally as well as physically. He helps her find depth beneath the heat. When they align, the sex is unlike anything either of them has experienced before. It becomes a blend of sacred and savage, fierce and tender. They can share nights where time feels irrelevant, where one look carries more weight than 1,000 words. The Aries woman discovers new emotional dimensions within her desire. The Pisces man unlocks confidence and assertiveness he never knew he had. It's not about domination or surrender, it's about mutual elevation. But let's be clear, the key to unlocking this connection is communication and trust. He needs to feel safe, emotionally and physically. If he senses judgment, pressure, or detachment, he'll retreat. His sensitivity isn't weakness, it's his compass. He opens only when he knows his heart won't be mishandled. She needs to feel wanted, fiercely, passionately, and without second-guessing. If she senses hesitation or emotional distance, she'll lose interest or become impatient. Her confidence isn't ego, it's a form of self-trust that craves bold reciprocation. Their intimate life becomes a barometer for their relationship. When things are working, sex is transcendent. When things aren't, the disconnect is immediate and sharp. That's why emotional honesty is everything for them in this space. He must be willing to speak up, to voice what he needs. She must be willing to soften, to listen and not take his slower pace personally. Together, they must build a sexual language that honors both of their styles, one that allows room for both heat and heart. Ultimately, their differences in bed are not a deal-breaker, they're an invitation. An invitation to discover what it means to truly connect, not just in lust, but in soul. To learn that great sex isn't just about chemistry, it's about curiosity. And when a fire-wielding Aries woman meets a water-born Pisces man with open minds and open hearts, they don't just make love. They create it. Marriage, the long game. Now let's get serious. Not Instagram serious or date night serious, real-life serious. The kind of serious that comes with bills to pay, routines to manage, late-night arguments, and the long-haul commitment of building a shared life. So the big question is, can a Pisces man and an Aries woman make it in marriage? The answer isn't a simple yes or no, it's a yes, if. Yes, if they're willing to stretch, bend, evolve, and sometimes completely rethink what they believed love should look like. Marriage between these two signs isn't effortless, but it can be endlessly rewarding. They'll have to grow together, not just alongside each other, but toward each other. Aries women are natural leaders. They're bold, capable, and unafraid to take charge of any situation, whether it's planning a family vacation, restructuring the household budget, or handling a last-minute crisis at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. She doesn't wait around for things to work themselves out, she makes them happen. In marriage, she wants a partner who's equally decisive, responsible, and grounded in real-world action. She admires independence, reliability, and, above all, initiative. Her love language is often built around acts of service and mutual ambition. Now, enter the Pisces man, a man of depth, imagination, and a kind of quiet emotional nobility. He's a lover, not a planner. A dreamer, not a scheduler. He doesn't respond well to rigidity or micromanagement, but thrives in environments of emotional trust, creative freedom, and spiritual connection. In his heart, he wants to give, truly give, to his partner. But he gives emotionally first, not logistically. Bills? Deadlines? Budget spreadsheets? Let's just say they're not his love language. His mind might wander in the middle of financial conversations. His spirit might wilt under harsh schedules or hard expectations. But don't mistake this for laziness, it isn't. Pisces men can be shockingly driven when they feel emotionally connected to a mission. They'll work long hours, show up in difficult moments, and push themselves to the edge for something, or someone, they believe in. The catch? They don't respond to pressure. They respond to purpose. Inspiration fuels their action. And this disconnect, between her structured ambition and his emotional motivation, can be the first fracture in the marriage foundation. The Aries woman may begin to feel like she's carrying the weight of the marriage on her shoulders, organizing everything, leading everything, making every hard call. She might resent his lack of assertiveness in day-to-day matters, confusing it with disinterest or irresponsibility. Her frustration may turn into fixing. She'll start nudging him, managing him, maybe even parenting him, which is something no one wants in a marriage. She may feel like she's married to a grown child instead of a grown man. And what does he do in response? He retreats. Emotionally. Quietly. He won't lash out or start a shouting match, that's not his way. But he'll start living in his inner world more and more. He'll withdraw, growing more passive, and eventually begin to feel misunderstood, unloved, or unseen. His affection may become inconsistent. His presence may feel more symbolic than real. And just like that, two people who love each other deeply are now living emotionally parallel lives. So how does this work long-term? Only if they truly accept each other's nature, not tolerate, not endure, but genuinely accept. That means understanding that their differences are not flaws to fix, but forces to balance. It means that the Aries woman must let go of the idea that her way is the only way. She needs to trust that just because his path is softer doesn't mean it's weaker. She must learn to value emotional presence as much as action, to see his intuition not as impracticality, but as wisdom in disguise. And the Pisces man? He must stop avoiding the real world. He can't disappear behind his dreams or use sensitivity as an excuse to opt out of responsibility. He needs to recognize that strength doesn't have to be loud, and that showing up practically is just as important as showing up emotionally. If he can harness her fire instead of fearing it, if he can let it light the darker corners of his own indecision, he becomes not just a poet, but a partner. When they get this right, the balance is breathtaking. She brings direction to his drifting. He brings depth to her determination. Together, they create a rhythm where neither one has to change their essence, just adjust their steps. A marriage where action meets intuition. Where passion meets compassion. Where fire warms water instead of evaporating it, and water cools fire without drowning it. They don't just meet halfway, they expand each other's worlds. But let's not sugarcoat it. This is not a set it and forget it kind of marriage. It's a daily practice, a conscious decision to lean in, listen, adjust, and forgive. They'll have to rebuild often, pause frequently, and celebrate small wins loudly. They'll need to laugh when things feel tense, and hold each other when pride wants to pull them apart. They'll have to learn when to speak and when to stay silent, when to fight and when to let go. It won't be easy. But what they build has the potential to be legendary. The kind of love that makes people ask how they do it. The kind of marriage that, while unconventional, becomes a story worth telling. A story where the fire didn't scorch the water, and the water didn't put out the flame, but where the two became something greater together than they ever were alone. Friendship, unlikely, but powerful. Can a fiery Aries woman and a deeply emotional Pisces man truly be friends? Not just acquaintances or casual companions, but real friends, the kind who stick through life's chaos, show up when it matters, and get each other in that rare, soul-level way. Surprisingly, yes. And even more surprisingly, sometimes, they're better friends than lovers. Their romantic differences, which can cause tension in relationships, often become their greatest strengths in friendship, where the stakes are lower, and the expectations are more flexible. In friendship, their contrasts don't divide, they complement. An Aries woman brings excitement and bold energy into a Pisces man's otherwise introspective, sometimes overly quiet world. She lives with a sense of urgency, always moving, always chasing, always hungry for the next adventure. For the Pisces man, who often drifts through emotional fog, she's a jolt of electricity. Her enthusiasm shakes him awake. She encourages him to act, to try, to leap. She helps him get out of his head and into the world. Her confidence becomes contagious. With her as a friend, he finds himself saying yes to life more often, even when it scares him. In return, the Pisces man gives the Aries woman something she rarely finds in her fast-paced reality, a sanctuary. He offers emotional depth, active listening, and a kind of gentle wisdom that doesn't try to outshine her, but instead reflects her back to herself. He doesn't compete with her or try to dominate, he accepts her exactly as she is. And for a woman who's used to being seen as too much or too intense, his presence is healing. With him, she can finally let her guard down, speak from the heart, and feel safe in her vulnerability. He teaches her that softness isn't weakness, it's another kind of strength. Together, they create a powerful emotional exchange. She shows him how to stand up, speak out, and stop hiding. He shows her how to listen, to feel deeply, and to slow down when needed. In friendship, they are not opposites fighting, but rather two forces gently pulling each other toward balance. One is motion, the other emotion. One pushes forward, the other pulls inward. And in that rhythm, they each grow. But, of course, not every story is smooth. Where can it go wrong? The friction usually arises from their most defining traits, the ones that make them who they are. The Aries woman, for all her loyalty, can be too blunt. She speaks her truth without a filter, and while that's refreshing in many relationships, with a Pisces man, it can cut deeper than she realizes. He internalizes words, turns them over in his mind, and doesn't easily forget emotional wounds. What she meant as casual honesty may land as emotional rejection. And if she's not careful, he'll quietly withdraw, not out of spite, but self-preservation. Conversely, the Pisces man can become overly dependent if the emotional lines aren't clear. His deep attachment and loyalty are admirable, but sometimes, he starts leaning too heavily. He might begin to rely on the Aries woman for validation, decision-making, or even emotional regulation. She, who values independence and decisiveness, may start to feel like she's carrying the emotional weight of the friendship, a role she never signed up for. If she feels trapped, she may pull away abruptly, leaving him confused and hurt. That's why boundaries are crucial. They can be incredible friends, even soul-level friends, but only if they understand where each person's space begins and ends. The Aries woman must learn to soften her delivery without compromising her truth. The Pisces man must develop resilience and emotional self-sufficiency, understanding that friendship is about support, not emotional rescue. When both respect each other's emotional terrain, their friendship becomes not just sustainable, but transformative. With honesty, mutual respect, and emotional balance, their friendship can be deep, vibrant, and enduring. It becomes a place where each person learns how to be a fuller version of themselves. The Aries woman rediscovers emotional stillness, the value of pause, the strength in empathy. The Pisces man learns the power of courage, not just emotional depth, but decisive action. They don't try to change each other, but they inevitably evolve because of each other. They may never fully understand each other, and maybe that's the beauty of it. Some friendships aren't about sameness or shared interests. They're about energy exchange, growth, and emotional chemistry. The Aries woman brings clarity and movement. The Pisces man brings depth and introspection. Together, they remind each other that friendship isn't always about being alike. Sometimes, it's about being what the other never knew they needed. Business, a balancing act. Would you go into business with your complete opposite? It sounds like a recipe for disaster, or the plot of a brilliant underdog movie. For a Pisces man and an Aries woman, a business partnership is both a wild risk and an untapped goldmine. These two are wired so differently that on paper, it might look impossible. But in practice, if they play it right, this could become a dynamic that not only works, it thrives. This isn't about sameness. It's about synergy. Their differences don't cancel each other out, they can actually amplify their collective impact. The Aries woman enters the business world like a storm, confident, fierce, and fast-moving. She's a natural-born leader with an instinct for strategy and a fearless approach to risk. The kind of person who gets an idea at breakfast and has the prototype by lunch. She thrives in chaos, makes snap decisions with surprising accuracy, and rarely second-guesses herself. Her mantra? Let's launch now, we'll fix it later. In her world, hesitation is the enemy, and momentum is everything. She's the fire that gets the machine moving and keeps it burning bright under pressure. The Pisces man, meanwhile, is a different kind of powerhouse, one who operates quietly but creates unforgettable impact. He's the visionary behind the curtain, the one who doesn't just build a product but gives it a soul. His strength lies in his intuition, his emotional intelligence, and his ability to see what others don't. He picks up on nuance, imagines future trends before they hit the mainstream, and understands how to connect with people, not just as consumers, but as human beings. He crafts the story, the mood, the heart of the brand. His creative energy is a force in its own right, one that brings emotional resonance to everything the business does. Together, this pair has all the raw ingredients for a standout enterprise. She provides the engine, ambition, strategy, relentless execution. He brings the compass, creativity, empathy, and a deeper understanding of the human side of business. It's drive plus artistry. Risk plus intuition. Speed plus vision. If they can stay in sync, they're not just building a company, they're building a movement. One that inspires, resonates, and evolves. But that "if" is massive, because here's the danger: communication breakdown. This is where their opposing natures can start to clash in a big way. The Aries woman moves fast, sometimes too fast. She's used to taking the lead and charging ahead, often assuming others will just keep up. Without meaning to, she might steamroll her Pisces partner, pushing past his input, ignoring his slower decision-making style, or brushing off his need for deeper emotional processing. What she sees as efficiency, he might experience as bulldozing. Meanwhile, the Pisces man, who thrives in collaborative, emotionally safe environments, might start to shut down. He hates conflict. He's not one to jump into confrontation or assert himself aggressively. So instead of pushing back, he'll withdraw. He'll stop sharing ideas, stop offering feedback, and slowly slip into the background, not because he doesn't care, but because he feels drowned out. And once he checks out emotionally, the partnership begins to erode. The business might still move forward, thanks to her momentum, but it loses its magic. Its heart. Its balance. And when pressure enters the picture, which it always does in business, these stress fractures widen. Tight deadlines, financial strain, public scrutiny, team dynamics, all of it amplifies their existing differences. She may start demanding faster results. He may feel overwhelmed and shut down even more. Without structure, communication, and respect, what started as a dream team can burn out in chaos. So how do they avoid that fate? Clarity and boundaries. They need clearly defined roles from day one. Not overlapping, not vague. She leads the front, strategy, action, execution. He owns the soul, branding, storytelling, emotional resonance. Each has full autonomy in their lane, but they meet at the middle with mutual respect. Her speed doesn't get to erase his voice. His sensitivity doesn't get to slow the train. Both must learn to listen, truly listen, to each other's language. Equally important is giving each other space to be themselves. She's not going to become the nurturing empath. He's not going to suddenly start thriving on risk and urgency. And they shouldn't try to mold one another into that. Instead, they should design a workflow that allows both personalities to shine. Maybe he needs time to process an idea before delivering his input, so give him space without taking it personally. Maybe she needs quick progress and check-ins, so he can honor that by being proactive, not reactive. When they finally click into place, when she trusts his creative vision, and he trusts her to steer the ship, something incredible happens. The Aries woman's leadership becomes more refined, more emotionally intelligent. The Pisces man's artistry becomes more focused, more grounded in action. They become more than just partners, they become mirrors and muses for one another. A rare business pairing where one fuels the other without erasing their essence. This duo, when aligned, doesn't just build a business. They build a legacy. One where innovation is led by purpose. One where ambition is grounded in empathy. One where every product, every pitch, every strategy is infused with both fire and feeling. So would you go into business with your complete opposite? If you're a Pisces man and an Aries woman, and if you're willing to meet halfway, the answer might just be, absolutely. Because sometimes, the most successful businesses aren't built by like-minded people, but by those bold enough to balance what the other lacks, and brave enough to trust what the other brings. Final thought, destiny or detour? So, are Pisces men and Aries women meant to be? Are they cosmically scripted soulmates, or just two emotional forces briefly passing through each other's lives on their way to something more stable, more predictable, more typical? That's the question, isn't it? The truth is, this is not an easy match. It doesn't come with a manual. It's not the kind of connection where you fall into place like puzzle pieces. It's not seamless. It's not smooth. In fact, sometimes it feels like it's not even supposed to work, and yet, somehow, it can. This is the kind of relationship that doesn't just happen, it evolves. It stretches both people in ways they didn't know they needed. It asks more than it gives, at least in the beginning. Because the Aries woman and the Pisces man come from two emotional planets, Mars and Neptune, that orbit at wildly different speeds. One lives in the world of instinct, the other in the world of feeling. One leads with fire, the other with fog. One says, let's go, while the other says, let's think. And the result? Friction. But also, potential. What makes this match so complicated is exactly what makes it so powerful. It's not built on compatibility in the conventional sense, it's built on transformation. The Aries woman learns what it means to be still, to go inward, to listen without fixing. The Pisces man learns how to stand tall in the face of discomfort, to speak up, to act even when it scares him. Together, they don't just balance each other, they sharpen each other. They call out the courage in one another. And that kind of growth, that kind of friction-fueled awakening, that's not just romance. That's alchemy. This is the story of a woman who burns and a man who flows. She is the wildfire, brilliant, consuming, unapologetically alive. He is the ocean, vast, mysterious, emotionally infinite. On their own, they can each be overwhelming. Together, they risk extinguishing each other. But if, and only if, they learn to honor each other's nature, they can create something unlike anything else. When fire learns not to scorch, and water learns not to drown, the result isn't compromise. It's creation. Something new. Something better. They must learn to burn together without boiling over. To find rhythm in their contrast. To trade control for curiosity. Because love between an Aries woman and a Pisces man doesn't follow rules, it writes its own. And if they're brave enough to ride the waves and walk through the flames, they just might stumble into a love that no one saw coming, including themselves. Because when fire and water learn to dance, the world doesn't just watch. It remembers. If this deep dive into the stars made you feel seen, stay tuned. Hit like, subscribe, and explore more videos like this one. There's plenty of cosmic insight waiting for you in the description below. And don't forget to follow us on social media for daily astro wisdom, relationship tips, and signs from the universe. Until next time, keep looking up.